Hello, Achim Yekarim. How are you? Hope you're having a good week so far. Wanted to give you the Daily Chidush. There was a shiur we did last week in Hebrew. We're talking about different topics, and one of the major topics that we talked about was in regards to Shalom Bayit, in regards to a good marriage, in regards to a good relationship with your spouse. Unfortunately, today, with the statistics showing that over 80% of marriages in the Western world end up in divorce, and it's become normal to say that someone has been married multiple times. It's almost a strange thing to hear that one of your friends is getting married. You always think to yourself, are you really sure? People always asking the question, you really want to take that chance? So one of the major reasons for it is because the Shalom Bayit is not something that Hashem did not talk about. Shalom Bayit is something that Hashem actually took very, very seriously and discussed it as early as the book of Genesis. But unfortunately, since many of us have not reviewed the Torah like we should, we don't know much about it, and we don't know really what's at stake. So one of the major places that Hashem discusses Shalom Bayit is when he sends the three angels to Abraham's house to report a few things to them. One is to heal Abraham after he did the circumcision. The covenant between the nation of Israel and Hashem started with Abraham. The second thing was to report to let Abraham know that Hashem is going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah for all of the promiscuity and immodesty and all of the countless sins that they were making. And last but not least, he was also going to have one of the angels heal Sarah and allow her to have a child at the age of 90. So not only a miracle, not only that would be a miracle today, but it was a miracle back then. So when Hashem actually had these angels tell Abraham that his wife is going to have a baby, Sarah is going to have a baby next week, Sarah actually laughed to herself and said, how could I have a baby with a husband that's so old? So when Hashem obviously questioned Abraham, he said to Abraham, why did Sarah say that she's too old to have a baby? Aren't I the God of the heaven and the earth? But that's not what she said. She didn't say that she was too old. She said Abraham was too old. So here we see that Hashem actually changed the truth. And in essence, if it wasn't written, we wouldn't be allowed to say it. But in essence, he lied. He lied for the sake of Shalom Bayit, because he knew that if he told Abraham that Sarah said that he's too old, this could create Shalom Bayit issues. This is one of several places in the Torah that Hashem is explaining to us how significant Shalom Bayit is, how significant a good marriage is, a good relationship in the home is. In essence, what he's trying to tell us is that you're allowed to erase his name, Chas v'Shalom, for the purpose of achieving Shalom Bayit. And this is also what we learn in Parashat Sotah. When a wayward woman, a woman that's accused of cheating, is questioned, one of the ways that they find out the truth is by bringing her to the Bet HaMikdash, writing the name of Hashem on a scroll and putting it into water, into the holy water, and then the ink from the scroll gets erased. Hashem's name gets erased, which is a sin. But for this, Hashem says He wants us to do it. Why? Because once she drinks this water, we're going to know the truth. If she cheated, she dies on the spot. If she did not cheat, she gets the biggest blessing. And if she wasn't able to have children, she's now going to be able to have children. If she has children already, her children will be very, very successful and become big Talmidim Chachamim, and so on. So here Hashem is telling us time and time again that He's willing to put His name aside just for the purpose of achieving Shalom Bayit. Now, how do we achieve such a thing? If you see the statistics in today's modern world, not many people are achieving Shalom Bayit. Even if they are religious, they're not always very happy with each other. Sometimes they stay together miserable because they don't want the embarrassment of the community knowing that they couldn't achieve Shalom Bayit, or perhaps they don't want their kids to grow up in a fatherless or motherless home. There's countless things that are considered. So rather than living a miserable life, let's look at a few tips we talked about in the Hebrew Shiur last week that could help us achieve this Shalom Bayit that Hashem is telling us time and time again is so important. First and foremost, for all the men out there, and women actually, that think you could buy Shalom Bayit, the answer is that you cannot buy Shalom Bayit. It doesn't matter how rich the man is and how many cars he buys his wife, or how many rings or diamonds or houses or any of those things that he buys to his wife, you cannot buy Shalom Bayit. If you buy your wife a ring every time you get into a fight, ultimately it actually destroys the relationship rather than builds it, because the fight becomes a benefit, subconscious benefit to the wife. She may not intend to have a fight, but Yetzer Hara in her is going to say, well, listen, you know what? If you really heat him up now and you get into a real fight, maybe you're going to end up getting a ring that you wanted. So buying your way out of a fight is not generally a good idea. And in general, it also makes the relationship based on material, which is something that does not last. So yes, it's important to buy your wife presents. The sages tell us that you should buy your wife presents. You should buy her flowers at the very least before Shabbat. You should buy a present on Rosh Chodesh during the holidays. You should always buy your wife some type of dress and things of that nature. And of course, spoil your wife to the best of your abilities if you can. Obviously, don't put yourself into a homeless shelter because your wife wants to have 15 Louis Vuitton bags. But everyone with some common sense would realize this, and a wife that really loves her husband and wants a relationship that lasts will not allow her husband to do such a thing. But that still doesn't help us with Shalom Bayit. How do we achieve Shalom Bayit? So there's a few things we talked about last week that if everyone actually takes this into account and really consider this, you would see that this actually works. Ultimately, we all need to understand that the purpose of any relationship, whether it's a marriage or it's some type of partnership in a business or anything else, the purpose of every relationship is to bring the best out of each other, to make each other better together as a result of being together than you would be if you were alone. So if, let's say, if by alone you're one, with another person it's supposed to be two. But that's not making yourself better, because in essence you're both staying the same. You're both staying one, and 1 + 1 = 2. That is not necessarily the ultimate good. It's better, but it's not the ultimate good. The ultimate good is to make the best out of each other and make that equation 1 + 1 = more than 2. How do you do that? One of the main things that the man has to do, the husband needs to do in a partnership, in a relationship, in a marriage that he considers as dear to him as Hashem considers Shalom Bayit, dear to him, is by making sure that he's always encouraging the woman to be better, to do better, but not by rebuking her, not by criticizing her, but by complimenting her. Because the woman is a species of feelings. A woman is someone that needs you to talk to her heart. It may not always be the logic that the man is looking for, but you're not talking to a man. So you can't talk to your wife and treat your wife like you treat your friends in the bar or at work. You have to treat your wife like a lady. If you treat your wife like it's your one of the boys that you play baseball with or you pray minyan with in the morning, then I can assure you that it's only a matter of time before that relationship hits a wall, because no woman in the world wants to be treated like a man. Same concept goes with the woman. The wife has to understand that her husband is not one of her girlfriends. So he doesn't necessarily have the attention span that her girlfriends have, where as soon as he gets into the door from work, he wants to hear about 87 different stories that happened to her girlfriends, and this one said this, and this one said that, and all of those things. The husband is not necessarily very as talkative as the wife, at least not most of us. But at the same token, he's a little bit more of a thinker. Well, at least he's supposed to be. So to him, you have to act with rationale, with things that are not necessarily as much about emotions, but similar to the wife, the husband also needs a lot of compliments. If instead of the wife, as soon as the husband gets to the house, instead of telling him about all the problems that happened to her today, she tells him that hello, how was your day? I really appreciate that you worked so hard. Or give him any type of compliment that she can find. He'll probably end up giving her as much time as she wants just to listen to anything she wants to say. The same concept goes for the husband. If as soon as he gets to the house, instead of running to the couch so you can watch one of these baseball, basketball, or football games, or spending all of his time just paying attention to the kids, the first thing he says, wait, first I have to say hello to my wife. Where's your mother? Just that alone can buy him the heaven at home. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, in a relationship, you have to understand that if you want it to work, you have to give without expecting anything in return. Many relationships out there are relationships where it's almost like, for lack of a better word, almost like prostitution, where if someone wants to get something, they have to give something for it. This is business. This is not a relationship. If you truly love your husband, or the husband truly loves his wife, they have to want to give just for the sake of giving, because they want to share something good. Happiness is created by sharing something, not by getting stuff, because that's why you see many people that are multimillionaires. They have everything in the world. The world has given them everything they could possibly desire, but somehow they're still miserable. Why? Because getting is not something that makes you happy. Giving does make you happy, which is the reason why anytime there's big events, we always go to big stadiums, because you share the experience in the big stadium rather than experiencing it alone. So in a relationship, you have to understand that you have to give without expecting anything ever in return. And you'll see that by giving, you'll end up receiving even more, both happiness and other things that you want. There was actually a nice chidush that I heard today there was a post by Rav David Greenberg, I believe, in our Torah group on Facebook. It was a very nice chidush. He said there are two seas in the Eretz Yisrael. There's the Dead Sea and the Sea of Galilee. Now both are distinctly different seas. The Galilee is beautiful, full of life, and 27 different species, and just something truly extraordinary. Or 27 different species that are not found anywhere else, but many other species beyond that. Whereas the Dead Sea, although it is beautiful to see, we went there a couple of years ago, it's something magnificent, the reality of it is, it's called the Dead Sea for a reason. There's nothing there. There's no life form can exist in the Dead Sea. Not a fish, not an amoeba, nothing. And both are being fed by the same river, the Jordan River. So how could two seas that are being fed from the same source be so distinctly different? The answer is that the Sea of the Galilee both receives and gives to the Jordan River. On one end, it receives the water from the Jordan River, and on the other end, it connects to it and it gives back to the Jordan River. Whereas the Dead Sea just receives. It doesn't give back anything. This is the secret to marriage. This is one of the main things that someone needs to understand with marriage. If you give and give and give, ultimately you will receive, if it's a good marriage. But if you end up only getting, and you're only getting, and you're on a receiving end, and you want more, and you want another bag, and you want another car, and you want more attention, and you want more this, and you want more that, and you don't ever give anything in return, then it becomes a miserable job called slavery. And no one wants to be in a relationship that they consider slavery. Another point is when to give in. If you want a relationship to work, you have to know how to stop problems before they happen. And you have to just give in sometimes. Because in every relationship, there's something, if you spend enough time with somebody, you'll find something very annoying about them. Whether it's the way they sit, or the way they chew, or the way they do this, or the way they do that, or sometimes the food is not ready when you get home, or sometimes she talks so much, or sometimes he snores, and all of these different countless issues that you find in relationships that really should not be a big deal, if we only learn how to just forgive and let things go. If there are certain things you have to look at, if there are certain things that are just annoying to you. For example, for men, most men work hard all day, and as soon as they get home, they want food to be ready. But sometimes the wife works so hard managing the kids. There's kids running around all over the house. She works extremely hard also. I couldn't handle a bunch of kids in the house. I could much better off go get a day job than handling a bunch of kids. This is a job that my wife would do. Most men think that they can handle the house, but in reality, most of them can't. So she works really hard also, and sometimes she forgets to make food, or sometimes she doesn't have a chance to, or sometimes something happens and it wasn't ready on time. Don't make such a big deal out of it. Get home. If you're home, you see that she's stressed out. She's not happy about not making you happy. So it's okay. I know you worked hard. She also worked hard. You can help her cook. It's not the end of the world. If you know that you want something cold to drink, and 50% of the time there's never something cold to drink as soon as you get home, instead of getting mad at your wife and constantly telling her, oh, I told you to get it, 500 times you've had the same argument about telling her to get something cold to drink and you don't have it in the fridge. Instead of having it 501 times, just be smart and on the way home, buy something cold to drink automatically. Regardless of whether there is or there isn't, you'll need it again. Just go and buy the drink and put it in the fridge. If she already bought it, great, compliment her for buying it. If she didn't, just say, hey, honey, look, I got something to drink. And she'll be happy for that too. Thanks for helping me, honey. If you already know of an issue that you can solve, then swallow your pride and do it. Because that's really the root of most of our problems. Most of the fights in marriage are constantly about being right. Constantly a battle of who is stronger and who is smarter and whose pride looks even better. If we all swallow our pride, just like we learned in that shiur we did last week about how to pick your rabbi, that doesn't only apply to rabbis, that applies to us. I'm not teaching people just to learn about how to distinguish one good rabbi from a bad one. All of these things apply to us. Every one of those things. If you want to be a person that's connected to Hashem, you must swallow your pride. We learn this from Moshe Rabbeinu, who had the ultimate connection with Hashem. And he was called Anav Mikol Adam. He was called the humblest man that ever lived. So by swallowing our pride, we could achieve the ultimate marriage. Because at that point, once there's no pride, then we look at the bigger picture. Is this argument worth another few bad hours? Or should I just not say anything and we'll get through it? And we'll get to the next thing. So if you could stop it, if you could do something about it, do something. Instead of arguing about it over and over and over again. So these are just some of the few things that regarding Shalom Bayit, appreciate each other, value each other, connect to each other, and the ultimate advice that I can give each and every single relationship, whether it's a relationship that's brand new and you just got married, or you're about to get married, or it's a relationship that's been going for 30 or 40 years. You must connect to each other spiritually, and there's only one way to do it. You spent all of this time talking about connecting to each other physically, whether it's through presence, through an attitude, through a different type of treatment and food and words. But the only way to connect to each other spiritually is by learning Torah together. Every day, take it upon yourselves to take 5 minutes out of both of your days and learn Torah together. Put on a shiur, put on a clip, and watch the shiur for 5 minutes. No words, you don't need to talk, you don't need to do anything. All you need to do is watch a shiur or listen to a shiur together with no interruptions. Just 5 minutes. If you can listen for more, it's even better. But 5 minutes a day will connect you spiritually, because when you listen to the same thing, already you're connected. When that same thing is the words of God, it's a spiritual connection. And nothing is better than a spiritual connection. May Hashem continue to bless all of you, and I hope this helps each and every one of your relationships. Kol Tuv.